It's nearly midnight, and you're 17 videos deep watching a stranger on the internet describe your entire life in a way that makes you go, how does she know? The way you script conversations before you have them, the way a shift in tone can wreck your whole afternoon, the way you can read a room before you've finished walking into it and feel like it's somehow your fault if even one person is in the bad mood. Everything she says gives you a jolt of, that's me. And then about 4 seconds later, a second voice arrives. Your inner critic. Oh, please. Everybody's like that. You're just looking for excuses. You're not autistic. You're not ADHD. You're just lazy and dramatic. And now you want a label to feel special. You think this lady on the internet is actually talking about you? Yeah, right. So you close the app. You feel a little embarrassed. And then the next night, you're right back, 20 videos deep, because the part of you that recognized yourself will not stop knocking. Here's what I want you to know. That second voice, the one calling you a fraud, it's not the voice of reason. And today, I'm going to explain why. This is the Neurodivergent Love Lab. I'm Jenna Dalton, a psychologist who is ADHD. I help ADHD, autistic, and ADHD women feel understood and loved, unmasked. And this is episode 11. Did I just diagnose myself from TikTok? AKA Diagnosis Imposter Syndrome. Now, I want to take a pause because you may have noticed what just happened there. I usually say I help ADHD, autistic, and ADHD adults make sense of love. And now I just said I help ADHD, autistic, and ADHD women feel understood and loved, unmasked. Yes, I've been doing a lot of thinking. I'm ADHD, so this makes sense, right? Overthinking all the things is in my nature. But seriously, I thought about it a lot, and the neurodivergent experience for men and women is different, very different. How women typically experience the world as autistic, ADHD, and ADHD humans is not how men typically experience it, which means that in the first 10 episodes of this podcast, I was trying to give tools, advice, and support to two groups of people needing vastly different things. So, late one night, I realized I had a decision to make. Keep trying to straddle two different spaces and be unable to fully immerse myself into one area in a way that could be truly useful, or pick a lane and go all in, full on, give it 125%. Again, I'm ADHD, so clearly the only natural answer was to go all in at 125%. So here we are. While I don't want to leave the men to fend for themselves, I also know that the female neurodivergent experience isn't as deeply studied and understood as the male experience. So it felt like the right move to give some support and tools in this underserved area. And also, let's be honest about the fact that I'm a woman myself. I can relate. My lived experience is similar to a lot of other women's lived experiences, so it just makes sense. I can bring both clinical and personal understanding to this space. So yes, here we are. But if you're a man, don't go away just yet. I truly believe that there are aspects of these upcoming episodes that you'll find interesting and useful, especially if you love a neurodivergent woman. Okay, let's get on with today's show, shall we? If you've spent any amount of time wondering whether you've made this whole neurodivergent thing up, this is the one for you. I'm bringing research your way today to back up why that doubt is not proof you're faking it and how it might actually be one of the clearest signs you're not faking it. So, let's talk about the loop. It goes like this. Maybe you recognize it. Recognition, then doubt, then guilt, then back to recognition. You see yourself in something. You feel the relief of an explanation. And then your brain swats it down. You're being dramatic. You're appropriating something serious. Real autistic people have it so much harder. Real ADHD is the hyperactive kid, not a grown woman who functions fine for the most part. And so you talk yourself out of it until the next thing you can't explain shows up and you're back at the start. Recognition, then doubt, then guilt, then back to recognition. I want to say something to you that I wish someone had said to me years before my own assessment, when I was in this exact loop. The doubt is not a sign your neurodivergence isn't real. You've been treating your own self-doubt as if it's the objective referee, the judge who's going to tell you the truth about yourself. But it isn't neutral. It's the single most biased person in the room. And for women, there are real research reasons that it's so loud. So today, we're covering a few different angles of this diagnosis imposter thing. First, why you specifically don't believe yourself and why almost none of those reasons hold up. Second, is self-identification even real? Is it valid? And third, how this doubt about your diagnosis actually says a lot about how you show up in your relationship. Yes, it's all connected. Let's talk about it. Okay, part 1, why you don't believe yourself. There are about 5 reasons the imposter voice is so loud for women, and I want to walk through each one because it'll help you realize you don't have to just believe that mean inner voice. The first reason is the biggest, and it's not your fault at all. We've talked about this in the last couple episodes. The entire picture of what autism and ADHD look like was built on boys. Literally, the early research, the case studies, the diagnostic criteria that clinicians are trained on, almost all of it came from studying boys. Boys who are visibly hyperactive, disruptive, acting out, the fidgeting boy, the boy obsessed with numbers and dinosaurs. So the template the whole world is matching you against was never built to include you. And here's the cruel little twist. When you look at yourself and think, but I don't look like that, so I must be making it up, you're using the exact same broken measuring stick that caused you to be missed in the first place. You're not failing to match a real standard. You're failing to match a standard that was always too narrow and never included you. The second reason is that you're good at it. Women camouflage or mask more than men. This shows up over and over and over in the research, study after study, consistently. There's even a questionnaire now, the CAT-Q, the Camouflaging Autistic Traits Questionnaire, built specifically because women's masking was so good, it was making them invisible to the system. We rehearse the scripts, we force the eye contact, we copy other people's mannerisms, we swallow the sensory discomfort, we perform fine all day long. And here's the brutal logic of that. The better you are at masking, the more your own brain uses your competence as evidence against you. If I were really autistic, I wouldn't be able to do all of this. No, you did all this at an enormous cost for decades, which is the most autistic woman sentence I could possibly say. The masking working is not proof you're fine. It's proof of how hard you've been working to appear to be fine. The third reason is dangerous because it's so sneaky. The self-doubt itself is a neurodivergent trait. Rejection sensitivity, that intense, sometimes physically painful reaction to the possibility of even being wrong, of being judged, of being rejected. It makes you triple check every claim you make about yourself before you dare say it out loud. The fear of being caught. Claiming something you're not entitled to is rejection sensitivity wearing a very convincing costume. And there's another layer. A lot of us have something called alexithymia, which is difficulty reading and naming our own internal states. So when your own gut says, I think this is me, you don't trust the signal because you've spent a lifetime not quite trusting your own internal signals about anything. The fourth reason is the paper trail. By the time most women get anywhere near the word autism or ADHD, they've already been handed 2 or 3 other labels. And the research here is stark. Around 80% of autistic women are misdiagnosed with something else first. Anxiety, depression, borderline personality disorder, an eating disorder, bipolar. In one large study of autistic adults, women reported a previous diagnosis they considered a misdiagnosis at nearly double the rate of men. Now sit with what that does to a person. You've already been told by professionals with confidence that you are this other thing. So when you arrive at a new explanation that actually fits, you've been trained to distrust your own labels because look how the last few turned out. The system's mistakes get stored in your body as your unreliability. You thought the label didn't quite fit, but who were you to question that person with all the degrees and expertise? Women are socialized to respect authority figures and professionals, not disagree with them. And the fifth reason is the one nobody warns you about. The part of your neurodivergence you may feel most strongly might be the one thing that the diagnostic manual doesn't even list. For so many of us, the loudest part of the whole experience is emotional. Feeling everything all the time, too much, too fast, too hard, all at once. Researchers estimate that somewhere between 70 and 90% of adults with ADHD struggle with some kind of emotional dysregulation. It was in the earliest descriptions of ADHD, and then when the official criteria were written, it got left out. So you have this situation where the most prominent, most disruptive feature of your actual lived experience is officially invisible. You go looking in the diagnostic checklist for the thing that defines your life, and it's not there. Of course you feel like a fraud. You're trying to verify yourself against a document that deleted your main character trait. I want to add one more because it gets so many of us. If you've ever thought, but it's not consistent, I'm fine for 2 weeks and then everything falls apart, so it can't be real. I need you to know there's research here too. For a lot of neurodivergent women, this stuff genuinely fluctuates with hormones across the month and across a lifetime. The 2 good weeks then collapse pattern is not you being a faker who's secretly fine. It's a real, documented rhythm. Inconsistency is not your disqualification. For a lot of us, it's part of the pattern that goes with our hormonal cycles. Okay, one last one because it might be the single most common thing I hear. I can't be neurodivergent. I'm too functional. I have a job. I'm raising kids. I keep the whole household running. Here's what that misses. The research describes how executive function struggles in women collide with the cultural job of running everyone's logistics and everyone's emotional calendar. And the result is a heavy, invisible mental load that looks from the outside exactly like competence and feels from the inside like constant firefighting and impending collapse. So the very fact that you're holding it all together is not evidence you're fine. It might be evidence of how much it's costing you to look fine. High functioning is not a diagnosis. It's often just a firmly fixed mask. Part 2, the TikTok question. Okay, so let's deal with the accusation in the title head on. Did you just diagnose yourself from TikTok? Here's the honest answer. You didn't get diagnosed from TikTok. You got a search term from TikTok. There's a difference, and it matters. A 30-second video did not reach into your life and invent 38 years of you working twice as hard as everyone around you and never knowing why. That was already there. What the video did was hand you a word for a thing you'd been living your whole life. That's not contagion, that's recognition. And recognition is how nearly every late identified woman starts the process of being diagnosed. Because the formal system wasn't looking for us. So we had to find ourselves. And the data actually backs this up in a way I find really moving. When researchers look at who self-identifies as autistic before any formal assessment, the people who do it are more likely to be older, more likely to be women, and more likely to be employed and high-functioning on the outside. Does that sound like a trend-chasing teenager looking for her 30 seconds of fame? It does not. It sounds exactly like the lost generation. The women the criteria were never built to catch, finding language as adults for the thing the system missed when they were girls. You are not the exception to real neurodivergence. You're the demographic it overlooked. Now, I want to be honest about the other side too, because I respect you too much to only tell you the comforting part. Self-identification is a real and valid starting point, and for a lot of people, it's also the ending point, and that's okay. But it really is just a starting point, not a diagnosis or clinical conclusion. The genuine risk of identifying only from short-form video is that you collapse every hard human experience into one explanation and stop being curious. Lots of things can cause focus problems or social exhaustion. Trauma can even look like this. Burnout can look like this. So the move is not a video told me, case closed. The move is a video gave me a thread, and now I get to pull it carefully with real sources, real diagnostic criteria, and see what holds. So if assessment is an option for you, when does it make sense to actually pursue a formal assessment? Here are a few honest reasons why you might want to go for an actual assessment. If you need it for accommodations at work or school, you often need the actual paper. If medication is something you want to explore, you'll need a prescriber in the loop. And for some people, and I'll put my hand up here, there's something about an external professional confirmation that finally lets the imposter voice rest in a way self-identification couldn't quite manage. Those are all good reasons. And here's the catch I have to name because it loops us right back to the start. Even a formal assessment can miss us. Remember, masking works best in exactly the kind of short, structured, high-stakes setting that an assessment is. The gold standard tools were largely built and validated on, right? Males. So a woman can sit in an assessment, mask beautifully, because that's what her nervous system does under pressure, and she can score below the cutoff and walk away being told, you're not neurodivergent. If that has happened to you, here's what you need to know. A below threshold score on a male-normed instrument administered to a champion masker is not the truth about your brain. It's not the full story. It's a known limitation of the tools. So if you pursue an assessment, find someone who specializes in the female presentation, in adults and in masking. It matters enormously who's holding the measuring stick. Also, please hear this. You do not need anyone's permission to understand yourself. A diagnosis can open doors and it can bring a particular kind of peace. It cannot make your experience more real than it already is. Your experience was always real. The label is just a key for certain doors. It's not the thing that makes the house yours. What about what the doubt does to your love life? Here's where this stops being a thing in your head and becomes a thing in your relationship. Because the doubt doesn't stay quietly in your own skull. It climbs into bed with you. It sits down at the dinner table. It shows up in every fight. Let's start with the question you ask yourself on a loop. Is it me? Am I the problem? Every recurring fight, every place you and your partner keep getting stuck, has two possible files it could go in. File 1, my brain works differently, and this is a real need that isn't getting addressed. File 2, I'm just difficult. I'm too much, too sensitive. I'm hard to love. And when you don't believe file 1 is real, when you're convinced the whole neurodivergence thing is something you invented, there's only one drawer left to put everything in. So it all goes in file 2. I'm just difficult. I'm too much, too sensitive. I'm hard to love. The sensory overwhelm at your partner's work parties? I'm antisocial and dramatic. Needing a whole day to recover from one hard conversation? I'm too sensitive. I'm high maintenance. The fact that you genuinely cannot tell if your partner is actually upset or just tired and hungry? I'm bad at this. Everyone else can do this so much easier. You file every recurring relationship problem under I'm the problem. And it gets sharpest in the middle of a fight. Remember the wiring we talked about, the rejection sensitivity, the lifetime of not trusting your own signals? That same wiring means you side against yourself before your partner has even finished their sentence. Something stings, and instead of letting yourself feel it, you're already prosecuting yourself. I'm probably overreacting. I'm being dramatic. This is the too much thing again. They're probably going to think I'm crazy. You delete your own reaction in real time. And here's the devastating part, the part that lands right on the oldest wound. You end up being both too much and not enough in the same instant. Too much because look at you feeling all of this over a tone of voice, and not enough because you can't even trust yourself enough to say so. So you swallow it again and again and again. And here's what the doubt quietly steals from you. Permission. If you're not sure the neurodivergence is even real, you don't feel like you've earned the right to ask for anything. You can't ask for the lights to be low, or for the recovery time you need, or for a text instead of a phone call, Because asking would mean claiming a need, and claiming a need would mean believing the thing you don't let yourself believe. So you don't ask. You just keep masking at home, overfunctioning, performing fine for the one person on earth you should be able to fall in part in front of. The doubt doesn't only live in your head. It keeps your real needs locked in a room you won't let yourself enter, and you're left standing there with your needs unmet again. And then there's the part that aches real bad. You've masked so well for so long that telling your partner that you're struggling now feels like lying. You've performed, I'm fine. You've performed, I've got it. You've performed the capable, easy, low-maintenance version of yourself for years. So when you finally want to say, excuse me, actually, I'm not okay, and I think there's a reason. Some cruel little voice whispers that you'll be caught making it up, that you're playing a card, that after all that convincing that you're fine, who are you to suddenly claim you've been struggling the whole time? So you stay quiet. You keep the performance running, and the distance between the real you and the version your partner knows gets a little wider, a little lonelier. Every single day you don't believe yourself enough to close it. Do you see the through line here? The doubt isn't just about how you feel about yourself. It's actively costing you the exact support you most need from the person you love, the person who loves you. It keeps you from seeing that you aren't the problem. There's so much more nuance. It makes you wrong all the time. It locks up your needs. It turns honesty into something that feels like fraud. The imposter syndrome isn't just keeping you from naming what's going on for you. It's keeping you from being known by the person you love. Which means believing yourself, even a little, even tentatively, isn't a self-indulgence. It's a relationship intervention, because you cannot ask to be understood for something you won't let yourself believe is real. Okay, so here's the tool. Here's the reframe I want to leave you holding, the takeaway. Just because you have imposter syndrome doesn't mean you're not neurodivergent. It's actually a possible sign you really truly are. The rejection sensitivity, the lifetime of not trusting your own signals, the decades of being handed the wrong labels, the masking so well, it fooled even you. Of course you don't believe yourself. Disbelieving yourself is something you were trained into by a system that wasn't looking for you. And here's the thing. If you're not yet diagnosed, you don't have to figure this out right now. You don't have to book an assessment this week. You can simply decide to stop using your own doubt as proof you must not be neurodivergent. And if you want a low-stakes, free, actually useful place to start exploring what's going on for you, that's exactly what I built my free 12-question quiz for. It won't diagnose you, and it doesn't pretend to. What it does is help you get some clarity around why you keep bumping into the struggles over and over and over again in your relationship. It's for you if your first thought when a problem comes up is, it's probably me. It's probably my fault. When something goes wrong, maybe you think, I'm too much. I ruined it. It's me. You've quietly carried that for years. But it's me and it's us, it's the relationship, are not the same thing. And not knowing the difference between the two keeps you stuck and exhausted in the same cycle over and over and over again. So take the free quiz to find out what's actually driving the same issue, the same fight, the same feeling on repeat. Is it your wiring, your relationship, or both together? You can take it for free at jennadalton.com/quiz. That's jennadalton.com/quiz. Okay, here's what I want you to take with you. The fact that you're scared you're faking it is not proof you're faking it. For women, that fear is so common, it's almost a calling card. The truly self-deluded, the people who genuinely want a label for fun, are not up at 2 a.m. interrogating themselves about whether they've earned it. You are. And that conscientious, terrified, over-checking part of you is not your fraudulence. It's your wiring, doing the exact thing it's always done. So get curious and gently ask your inner critic to take a seat for a sec. Start with the quiz at jennadalton.com/quiz. pull the thread gently and let yourself take up the space you've spent your whole life apologizing for. I'm Jenna Dalton. Your brain isn't broken. It's beautiful. I'll talk to you soon.